name is Elizabeth Manns, and I'd like to welcome you to the April 4th Coalition Show. This is the February 24th, 2025 edition of the show. The April 4th Coalition's mission statement is, we are for workers' rights and collective bargaining rights, and are against tax breaks for the rich and corporations who ship our jobs overseas. We support all the articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and before we start with the ones we traditionally do at the start of the show, Article 23, I've been tasked with reading the first two sentences of the Universal Declarations of Human Rights preamble. The first sentence is, whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. And the second sentence is, whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind and the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration for the common people. Dick?
All right, Article number 1. Everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and protection against unemployment.
Number 2, everyone without any discrimination has the right to equal pay for equal work.
Number 3, everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, ensuring for himself or herself and his or her family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented, if necessary, by other means of social protection. Here you go.
Number 4, everyone has the right to form and join trade unions for protection of his or her interests.
There you go. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
And as is our custom, we would like to thank the wonderful staff at Northern Berkshire Community Television Corps for their assistance putting on the show. So a thank you to Matthew Tucker, Nicole A. Brown, and Joanne Holbert. And also, because I believe Michael Putnam is still doing it, a thank you to the program director of WNNB for airing the audio portions of our shows on Friday at 6 p.m. And since we have such a full panel, I guess we're going to start.
Yeah, well, thank everyone for being here. We had President's Day off last week, but we did have a show that we did show. But, you know, just as, you know, we see people being torn and sent to Guantanamo, people being deported, people's jobs, you know, people being marginalized, saying that, you know, you don't have a right to exist here. We want to take a look at a quote from Martin Niemöller, who spoke shortly after World War II, who had been arrested. But let's watch this short video about Martin.
Martin Niemöller was a German clergyman, a Protestant, who watched Hitler's rise to power as though he were a member of the audience. In 1944, as a prisoner in the Nazi death camp at Dachau, he wrote the following. In Germany, they came first for the communists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a communist. Then they came for the Jews, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I didn't speak up because I wasn't a trade unionist. Then they came for the Catholics, and I didn't speak up because I was a Protestant. Then they came for me. And by that time, nobody was left to speak up.
Yes, I remember that quote. It's quite commonly used in the union. They alter it a little bit to be, they came for this group, and then they finally came for me, and there was no one left to fight for me.
Stand up, yeah.
And that's essentially, they borrowed it from Niemeyer. And this is the one we are in. He's starting with the immigrants, then he's going for the federal workers, and then he will certainly go for the trade unions. And and the clergy.
He's going for everybody.
Yeah.
He's going for everybody that is not so-called what an American is. We're a little bit of everything. That's what's so great about us.
The reason why we have this Universal Declaration of Human Rights, it was finally, put together, it was the aftermath of World War II, and man's humanity just couldn't stand what we allowed to happen. And we drew an alliance with other nations and said we were going to set this bottom rung, that all human beings should be treated like this, giving people right to seek asylum in another country when it wasn't safe in their country. We, the United States, turned back Jewish people at our door saying, no, we don't want you here. There were people in the United States and in Canada that were siding with Hitler.
Lindbergh.
Luckily.
Lindbergh.
Yeah. What was the theme of Lindbergh? America First. That was his theme, America First, same as Donald Trump's. And now we have Elon Musk, and we look at his family. He comes from South Africa. His father, South Africa, where there was apartheid. His father was ran jewel mine. So they got his wealth. He got his wealth from taking the national resources of the African people. And where did his mother come from? His mother was a Canadian-born woman, but her father and mother, Elon Musk's grandfather and grandmother, they were German descent, and they were in a part of Canada that was supporting Hitler. And then when Hitler lost in World War II, they said, well, we got to get out of here. And then they moved to South Africa because they thought that type of government, the apartheid government in South Africa, was more to their liking. And so this product that we have this unelected billionaire, quote unquote, the richest man in the world, now making decisions on our everyday life.
If I have it correct, Elon Musk has $13 billion of United States tax money, and part of getting rid of the inspector generals was because he's being investigated, I think, by the Department of Justice.
Well, let's take a look at this video with this. It's on C-SPAN. There was a Texas congressman, Ralph Nader, made me aware of it. I always encourage you to listen to the Ralph Nader Radio Hour if you can online, or go to YouTube or whatever. But he said, please pass this 5 minutes on to show what some congressmen are doing, or Congress people are doing, to fight what Trump is trying to impose on us. Let's have a listen to this Texas congressman.
Gentleman from Texas, Mr. Kassar.
This subcommittee is supposedly about looking into waste, fraud, and abuse. So I'd like to start talking about independent inspector generals who are supposed to be looking into waste, fraud, and abuse. Mr. Talkov, do you know how many inspector generals at agencies that were investigating Elon Musk's companies have been fired by the Trump-Musk administration?
No.
It is 5. Ms. Royal, the Inspector General of the Department of Labor had 17 open investigations into Tesla and SpaceX. Do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
No.
They fired him, and I think you all know. Mr. Whitson, the Inspector General of the Department of Transportation, was investigating Tesla. Do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
No.
They were fired. The Department of Defense's Inspector General was looking into SpaceX. Mr. Hedler, do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
I believe he was fired.
Thank you. I think everybody on the panel knows what the answer to these questions were. The U.S. Department of Agriculture Inspector General was investigating Musk's Neuralink. Mr. Talkov, now I'll ask you again under oath, do you know what Mr. Trump did to that Inspector General that was looking into one of Musk's companies?
No.
He was fired. The Inspector General at the EPA was repeatedly taking on Tesla. Mr. Hedler, since it seems that you're answering the questions that everyone knows the answer to, do you know what the Trump-Musk administration did to that Inspector General?
I believe he was also fired.
Also fired. At least 5 Inspector Generals that were looking into Elon Musk's companies were fired by the Trump-Musk administration. These Inspector Generals, who are independent, protected by law, They are the people that find the waste, fraud, and abuse and found many of the cases of waste, fraud, and abuse that have been brought up today, fired because they were looking into Elon Musk. At the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, which is supposed to protect workers from getting their unions busted by folks like Elon Musk, made functionally broken by the so-called Department of Government Efficiency that really is the Department of Government Efficiency for Elon Musk, not for you. They are trying to shut down the Department of Education, the Department of Labor. You know what Elon Musk doesn't seem to be looking into? His own contracts. Again, I'll ask you, Mr. Talcove, do you know how much money a day Mr. Musk will receive from the federal government for his contracts?
No.
The answer is $8 million a day. Just last year, Elon Musk was promised $3 billion from close to 100 contracts with the federal government. Ms. Royal, do you know how much the average person in this country who survives on Social Security, one of our seniors who's worked their entire life, about how much they have to survive on a day?
I do not.
$65 a day. We're not looking into Elon Musk's $8 million a day. This subcommittee, chaired by Marjorie Taylor Greene and the House Republicans, is looking into your grandmother's $65 a day. Let me be clear. I think we would all support taxpayer savings, look into money we might needlessly send to billionaires and big corporations, find taxpayer savings, and send it back to your hardworking family. But instead, what House Republicans and the Trump-Musk administration want to do is they want to look into your kids' lunch money, your kids' teacher's salary, into your grandparents' Social Security. They want to take that money and give it out in billionaire tax cuts, and they're talking about that in committee tomorrow. In Budget Committee tomorrow, they just released their plan. So let me be clear. When Republicans talk about government efficiency in this Congress, they're not looking into billionaires who don't pay their taxes. They're not looking into billionaires who get rich off of government contracts. They're not looking into Elon Musk firing watchdogs who are supposed to keep him accountable. They're looking at cutting your public schools. They're going straight for your Social Security. They're coming straight for cancer research. They're coming straight for the Department of Education. They're not looking at big tech. They're not looking at big pharma because those people fund their campaigns. If this committee were serious about rooting out waste from our federal government, then today's whole hearing would be about how Musk and Donald Trump are firing the independent watchdogs who've done this work for decades. Instead, my Republican colleagues' actual goal on this committee is to distract from Trump and from Musk's corrupt war on accountability. This will not be a subcommittee dedicated to making government efficient for everyday people. It's about helping Elon Musk and Donald Trump be as efficient as possible in robbing our government and handing out our government services to the rich. So this seems that this subcommittee is just
The
going to
gentleman's
be like
time
the
has
agency it's named
expired.
after.
The gentleman's
a sham,
time has expired.
a total sham.
The American people are $36 trillion in debt. It certainly seems reasonable that someone has been fired. I now recognize.
Yeah, someone should be fired, but it's those at the
That
top.
woman right there.
Right there. You know, the reason why we have this big debt or deficit of trillions of dollars is because of the tax cuts that we're giving to the very rich, like Elon Musk and all the others, and corporations. You know, GE pays no taxes. You know, all these corporations, they get the lowest tax rate in the world. We're like we're laundering money for all over the world. We're letting this money come in, and we're not doing anything to enforce it. They're doing everything to do away with anything that will enforce the rich to pay their fair share. And that's why. And then we have a bloated military budget. More money gets spent on the military than the military even wants. It's the military-industrial complex, the manufacturers of weapons. They go in and tell Congress how much they want them to spend, not the Pentagon itself. So you want to get rid of that $5 trillion deficit. We've had people on and talked about how you save that money. You know, it's very easy. But anyways, how can a guy like Elon Musk get be so powerful, not elected, just appointed? Well, we have a little song here by, I can't remember the name of the people. It was Paxton, I'm not sure.
Yeah, Tom Paxton is one of them.
Yeah, I don't
but
have
he
the
wrote
name.
it.
Yeah. But anyways, that, you know, as Will Rogers says, we got the best politicians money can buy. And so let's listen to this song about I Bought the President.
Oh, bought me a president, I did, I did. I bought me a president, I did, I did. I bought me a president, I did, I did. It only cost me $250 million. And the president's puppet, howdy do, howdy do. The president's puppet, howdy do, howdy do. President's puppet, howdy do, howdy do. It only cost me $250 million. Now $250 million people gonna be unemployed. $250 million people gonna be unemployed. $250 million people gonna be unemployed. It only cost me $250 million. And the poor will go hungry, but I don't care. Poor will go hungry, but I don't care. Poor will go hungry, but I don't care. It only cost me $250 million. And you'll be in a pickle, yes you will. You'll be in a pickle, yes you will. You'll be in a pickle and it won't be due, and you won't have $250 million. Oh, $250 million here, $250 million there, $250 million here, $250 million there, $250 million here. Hey, life ain't fair, you may be out of money, but I don't care. Oh, the law does matter to a guy like me, 'cause I got more billions in the deep blue sea. You can see my ass to eternity, but you can't beat $1 billion. Oh, I bought me a president, I did, I did. I bought me a president, I did, I did. I bought me a president, I did, I did. It only cost me $250 million.
Song by Kathy Fink and Tom Paxton. There you go.
Wow.
There's your credits.
Yeah.
One of the things in your comments just before was, don't forget the deficit climbed to the trillions because of the tax cut, in the first Trump administration, the tax cut to the rich and the corporations.
And that's what they're planning on doing again.
I know.
So,
I saw something on a YouTube channel, and there was this girl, and she found out that they were going to cut her food stamps, and she was hysterical. It just made me want to cry. She said, I have to right now, with the money I have, 3 days a week, I have to have nothing to eat so I can feed my kids. She was rolling on the floor, she was crying, she could barely breathe. You know, I mean, I was just, I understand, it just tore me apart.
Right. Because you care.
Yeah.
Because you care, but we have people that are in leadership in Washington that don't care. They don't care that they're destroying our country. They have no, this guy bought the President of the United States for $250 million for sale. And don't think that just because he's an American citizen, foreign born, but American citizen, that he's the only one that's been buying this president.
I don't know, everybody's
Putin in
5
Russia
years ago.
is a very rich man. And Trump refuses to say that he was the cause of the war in Ukraine. He's refusing to say that he was the cause. It's just awful. But we're you've mentioned it. We're not, this was a coup, right?
I call it a bloodless coup, and the blood is already flowing in the streets from the most vulnerable. And I wrote that to WAMC, and I've sent it all around the place. And if Americans aren't seeing that we are in the midst of a coup, God help us.
In our last show, we showed the senator from Maine,
Oh, Angus King.
Angus King, talking about that we were in a constitutional crisis.
Yeah, it's worse than that, though.
And we were talking. So, but right now, we'll go all the way to Arizona and talk to the Attorney General in Arizona, the other side of the country. But let's hear what she has to say about what's going on in our federal government.
I'm Attorney General Chris Mays. The actions of the Trump administration in the last 3 weeks can only be described as dictatorial and authoritarian. Every day, nearly every hour, there is some new action or executive order that makes a mockery of the rule of law and the Constitution itself. This weekend, Vice President J.D. Vance posted a statement saying that judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. That is a complete affront to the system of checks and balances inherent in our Constitution. The independent judiciary acts as a check on executive overreach. In the United States, we appeal rulings we disagree with. We don't ignore court orders or threaten judges with impeachment when a ruling goes the way we don't like. I want to be as direct and clear as I can be. There is an undemocratic administration in power, and they appear hell-bent on undoing 250 years of adherence to the rule of law in this nation. It is an incredibly dangerous moment, and it is all the more dangerous if people don't understand what is happening. There is an ongoing coup against the Constitution of the United States happening as we speak. Congress authorizes the work of federal agencies and allocates funding to them. The elected representatives of the people are supposed to exercise oversight to ensure that these agencies operate within the bounds of the law, serve the public interest, and are held accountable for how they use taxpayer dollars. But today, Congress is nowhere to be found. Donald Trump has grabbed the power of Congress and handed it to an unelected billionaire and a group of teenage hackers. The richest man in the world is now running roughshod over the authority of federal agencies in violation of the rule of law and the Constitution. Republicans hold majorities in the House and the Senate. They could pass the administration's policies through Congress and send Trump legislation to sign. But they know the American people don't support what's happening. They don't support eliminating the Department of Education. They don't support canceling funding for law enforcement and public safety. They don't support canceling healthcare funding. So instead, Donald Trump has decided the Constitution doesn't matter, and he has handed power to Elon Musk to do whatever he wants without accountability, without oversight, and without the consent of the people. The way we make change in this country is through the law, either in the courts or in Congress. But when those processes are undermined, when the rule of law is ignored, manipulated, or twisted to serve the whims of an unelected billionaire, it's an assault on the very foundation of our democratic republic. In every case we have brought against the Trump administration so far, from birthright citizenship to the illegal spending freeze, we have blocked the president's lawless actions. So I will continue to challenge the illegal actions of the Trump administration in court, and we will continue to win. But it is time for every American patriot to stand up, speak out, and defend our democratic processes. Because the moment we allow them to be eroded is the moment that we risk losing the freedoms and justice they were built to protect, and that countless Americans have fought and sacrificed to defend.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
It's very strong.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney General.
Yep.
Seems like
Yeah.
you hit on everything.
And have to thank everybody, all of you sitting at this table, because you've been doing this fight for 12, 13, 14 years. And that's what it is. Every one of us doing whatever we can.
We have another video with a historian, Heather Cox Richardson. You want to see if we can get that in there? Let's see if we can squeeze this in with Heather Cox.
President Trump issued an executive order giving himself direct control over regulatory agencies created to be independent by Congress. Scholars say we're headed for a constitutional crisis if the Trump administration defies court orders. Others say, look, we're already in a coup. You're a historian. What is your take?
Oh, I think we're already in a coup. with the very simple explanation that the way our Constitution was written, the first article in that Constitution firmly establishes that it is Congress that has the power to make laws, not the executive branch, not the judiciary, but Congress. And from the outset, the Trump administration has worked both to undermine those laws through the concept of impoundment, but then also to override those laws through firing people, for example, where there were specific laws in place to specify the ways in which those people could be fired, that they simply flouted. So the attempt to destroy the congressional authority over lawmaking, and now the threat to ignore the judiciary as well, amounts to an existing constitutional crisis and the attempt to take over our nation with one strong man.
I've spoken to local voters, Republicans and Democrats, who are pro-choice. They care about the climate, they want better health care, and they want to preserve democracy. How do they reclaim the middle?
Well, the middle is there and always has been. The people who insist that we are polarized are the politicians who benefit from that. The vast majority of Americans agree, even on hot button issues like the idea of common sense gun safety legislation or abortion rights. The trick is to make sure that people understand that we're here, we have agency, and we need to step up and speak up to reclaim that middle, that democracy, because there are a whole heck of a lot more of us who feel that way, whether they vote Republican or Independent or Democrat, than people who want to replace that system with the sorts of authoritarianism that the far right is now embracing, not only here in America, but also around the world.
As you all know, President Trump won in counties with no local news by as high as 54 percentage points. Here in San Diego, local news coverage has shrunk. We have hyper-partisan news websites called Pink Slime. How can journalism cover what's happening better and reach more people?
Oh, I love this question, because for all that we are in fact losing local newspapers, and for all that we are losing so many of our great reporters, what we are seeing in this moment looks very much to me like what we saw in the 1850s or again in the 1890s. And that's the rise of new media that's doing really terrific work. We don't pay a lot of attention to that. It's very important. Think of all the independent media outlets that we now see in places like Substack, but also around small communities around the country. So one of the things we can do is make sure we have local news, and that doesn't necessarily mean on paper. It could mean podcasts. It could mean people posting on Substack or on Facebook or on other forms of social media. It could be the idea of videos on Instagram, for example, or YouTube.
I've heard you say that people ask you where our heroes are. What do you tell them?
I always, first of all, say that a hero isn't somebody who comes down from on high and suddenly does something miraculous. A hero is somebody continuing to do the right thing, even if nobody is paying attention, and even if it feels like the walls are closing in. So when I think about heroes, I see them everywhere. The heroes are us. We're the people who get up in the morning and go to work even though we don't want to, and put food on the table in front of the kids, and remember on the way out the door that, oh, we forgot to take in the car. But we keep doing the right thing. And if enough people keep doing the right thing, putting one foot in front of the other to do the right thing, we will change the world.
Well, definitely the defense of this country is going to be from the ground up. I agree with her there. It's going to be the everyday citizen who makes the difference, because the ones in power have already pretty much been bought. So if you're going, you got to scare them so that money's not enough.
Sad to say, you have to find out what you're willing to put your life on the line for, and that's what this last video didn't go strong enough, because all of you who are union people, and I wasn't, but I was still, association, know that people died, being union members, and people in our military died, even in wars that were never declared, like Vietnam and conflicts. And there are people, so that's the depth of the commitment, is to realize it might cost you your life. I don't mean to be scary, but that's what freedom is about, and you have to keep fighting for freedom.
I think Benjamin Franklin said it. He says, either we hang together or we hang alone.
Yeah.
And that, you know, and that's what Mr. Niemoller, the minister, was saying.
Yes, yeah.
About we just can't sit back and watch as other people's rights are stripped from them and think that when they come to us, there'll be other people to stand up for us. We have to stand together. That's what a union is.
Yeah.
That's what it says in the preamble of our Constitution, to form a more perfect union,
Yeah.
to establish justice.
One to one to one together. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. And everybody's got to let their light shine and have some
We're
hope.
actually out of time.
Yeah. Let me just finish with the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. And the President and his unelected billionaires have to abide by the Constitution or they gotta go.
They got to go, period. Power to the people.
Power to the people.
Yeah. Our men, our women, our everyone.
I call Congressman,
Thank you.
There's power in the factory, power in the land, power in the hand of the worker. But it all amounts to nothing to